Hello viewers, welcome to the session. In today's session, we are going to discuss the term evaluation in English language teaching. Evaluation is a natural process. We do evaluate many things in our life. We evaluate when we do shopping, we evaluate when we meet a new person, or even we evaluate music or even movies. Here we are going to come across some new terms: testing, measurement, assessment and evaluation. Although these terms look similar, they are different. Let us see how they are different. So, a test is a process for assessing learners' language assimilation to elicit a sample of individual behavior, and generally a test is product oriented. For example, a test in grammar or a test in vocabulary or pronunciation or even a test in reading, they are all end oriented. So, we see the product after administering the test. And then measurement. It is the process of quantifying the characteristics of a person according to explicit rules and procedures. Example, numeric value. So, in a language class, we take the fluency test and we measure the fluency in terms of WPM or words per minute. And assessment, at basic level, assessment is nothing but making a decision, and it is the full range of procedures used to gain information about learners' learning, which includes classroom observations, projects, written works and tests. And evaluation. It is the process of determining the changes in behavior through instruction, and it is the systematic gathering of information to make a decision, and it includes both process and product. And it is the process of ascertaining or judging the value of something by using a standard appraisal system, which includes judgments and goals to be attained. So, this is the triangulation of data. The curriculum reflects the instructional objectives, and the curriculum is administered in the classroom in terms of learning experience, and the end is evaluation, and evaluation has its impact on curriculum. So, it is a chain, it is a process, and all these classroom instruction, objectives, learning experiences and even evaluation, they are interrelated and they move in a circle. So, a big question is, do we really need evaluation? Yes, there are the reasons. Evaluation is done to understand the existing process, and evaluation is done to explain, confirm and even modify the existing classroom procedures, and evaluation is done to assess the feasibility of the existing practice and explain why they are so. And it is done to assess the suitability of the materials prescribed, and it is done to assess the entire teaching learning process, and it is done to examine all the factors that contribute to the learning process, and it is done to know how much and how effectively the learner has attained the objectives. Now, the question is, what do we evaluate in English language education? These are: evaluation is done at various levels: phonology or the system of pronunciation, grammar or syntax, and even vocabulary. And if you look into the skills that are associated with evaluation, they are listening, speaking, reading and writing. And sometimes the level and the skill can be integrated. For example, when we are working with a minimal pair, and when the students are asked to identify the particular sounds, the focus is on listening as a skill, as well as the level is phonology. And spotting the errors or identifying the errors in the sentences, if you see that, the focus is on reading as well as grammar. So, in evaluation, we can link the levels with the skills. And how is evaluation done? Evaluation is done in terms of tests and questionnaires, observation schedules, self-assessment forms, diaries, interviews, classroom observations, document survey and portfolios. And let us see, we have already done a test is a set of standard tasks that are attempted by a group of learners in order to demonstrate their knowledge and ability. And test components. What can we have in a test? First, content. The test should reflect the content. For example, in a maths test, the content of mathematics; in an English test, the content of English which is prescribed, or even a science test. And tasks. What are the tasks we can see in a test? We can have a reading task or even a writing task, vocabulary task, etc. And test components. What are the test items? And we can have different forms like true or false type, yes or no type, multiple choice, short answer, essay type, etc. And method. How is test administered? Or is it paper based or online mode or individual or even take home test? And ultimate is measurement. The end of a test is nothing but marks or grades. And here we can see there are many types of tests we do, and here we are going to discuss them: diagnostic test, proficiency test, placement test, achievement test and aptitude test. So, diagnostic test. The term itself suggests that a diagnostic test helps the teacher to identify the strengths as well as the weaknesses of the learners. And generally, a diagnostic test is administered at the beginning of a course, and it helps to discover learning gaps, and it leads to remedial teaching. Example, a baseline test. It's a good example for diagnostic test. Once we administer baseline test and we see where our students are strong and where they are weak and how to fill the gaps. So, a diagnostic test leads to remedial teaching. Next is a proficiency test. It is very familiar, and a proficiency test is syllabus free test, and it is designed to measure learners' ability to use language at a specific level. For example, TOEFL or Test of English as Foreign Language, and IELTS and TOEIC, Test of English for International Communication. So, these are good examples of proficiency tests, and no syllabus is prescribed for these tests, and the overall ability of the learners is assessed. And we all know for in TOEFL it is measured in terms of points, and IELTS it is in terms of band. So, the ultimate goal of a proficiency test is to measure learners' ability or competence in a particular language. And placement test. And placement test helps the teacher to place the student at a particular level, and it can be both norm reference test and criterion reference test. And a placement test helps us to assess the learners and assign them places in the order of merit. And norm reference test is cutoff based. We all know in competitive examinations there is a cutoff mark. So, whoever have crossed the cutoff mark will be declared successful. In the other side, if the top 50 or top 100 are declared successful, it refers to percentile, and it is criterion reference test. So, a placement test can be norm reference or criterion reference. And achievement test, it is very familiar. It is based on the content or syllabus which is prescribed and which is already completed, and generally an achievement test focuses on the end product, and they can be of two types: one teacher made test as well as standard tests. Public examinations are good examples for achievement tests. Sometimes teachers prepare their question papers and they administer in the classroom. So, achievement test can be teacher made as well as standard, and it aims at the skills the learners have acquired and the retention of the content, and it helps to declare the final result. So, the end of achievement test is awarding marks or grades to the students after completing the course. An aptitude test, and it aims at assessing the proficiency of the test takers for taking up a specific job or a course of study. So, aptitude test is profession specific and it helps to measure the awareness or orientation. A test TESOL and CELTA are internationally accepted aptitude test, and of course, now we are going to take the exam TET. It is also a good example of aptitude test. And what are the qualities of a good test? A good test should have validity, reliability, usability. So, what is validity? It refers to different aspects such as content, consistency and usefulness. And again, we can look into the other terms of validity. Face validity means a test should look like a test, and it should have a format, and it should have all the necessary details, the date of the test and the time, marks allotted and marks assigned. And content validity, a test should cover all the content or syllabus prescribed. For example, for a test 2 or 3 units are prescribed and all the test items are taken from just one unit, it will not have content validity. And concurrent validity refers to the test should be similar to the tests that are made by other teachers or that are administered previously or other available tests. So, this is content validity. We cannot come out with a totally new format or totally new concepts in a test, and the test should reflect or a test should be similar to the tests that have been administered before. And predictive validity refers to the test should be able to reflect and predict students' future performance. So, always testing, it has its implications on the students, and tests, they help the teachers to design the curriculum, to bring in changes in the classroom procedure. And reliability refers to there should be little fluctuation of scores of the students with reference to the test they have taken. For example, a test is administered in the class, the strength of the class nearly 50, only 2 or 3 students have gained 40 plus and all the other students they scored only 10, 15, 20. In that case, the test does not have reliability. That means the range must be minimum. The difference between the best mark and the least mark should be minimum. And scoring, a good test should give scope to scoring. And variety, a good test should have a variety of test items. So, we have already come across different test items. So, a good test should have essay type questions, short answer, multiple choice questions, fill in the blanks, and all the different types of test items should be included in a test. And primarily rubrics are very important. Good instruction, what do we expect from the learner, that is very important, and a good test should give clear instructions. What should the child do? And the time allotted to the test should be sufficient. For example, a test with 20 or 30 test items and the time given is only 15 minutes, it is impossible, they may not do. Or sometimes very simple test items are given nearly 10 or 15 and time is 4 hours, meaningless. So, the time assigned for the test should be sufficient for almost all the children to take the test. And evaluation, there is a slender difference between assessment and evaluation. Evaluation can be considered as academic assessment, and we can see 2 types of evaluation. One is formative evaluation and summative evaluation. Formative evaluation is process oriented and summative evaluation is product oriented. And formative evaluation, it is ongoing and continuous, whereas summative evaluation is periodic or even end product. And our slip test and formative assessment, good example of formative assessments, and summative examination 1 and 2 are examples for summative evaluation. And why do we take up formative evaluation? It is to correct, help and improve, whereas summative evaluation is meant to evaluate. Formative evaluation can be either external or internal, or sometimes even self or peer and class, whereas summative evaluation is usually external. And for formative evaluation, feedback is immediate, whereas for summative evaluation, feedback is given after a gap. And formative evaluation is very specific, whereas summative is overall grade or rank. And we have already discussed formative evaluation is process oriented, whereas summative is product oriented. And formative evaluation has its impact on the learners. Normally, formative evaluation is done to benefit the learner, whereas for summative evaluation, there is no scope of any, because once the result is declared, there ends the matter. And here are the tools. Formative evaluation is done by questionnaires, observation schedules, checklists, self-assessment forms, interviews, diaries and classwork, for example, notes or classwork that the children do, and even slip tests. And even you can include projects here. Whereas for summative evaluation, feedback sheet or semester or term examination, we have already discussed SA1 and SA2. And what are the techniques of testing? Testing can be subjective as well as objective. So, these are the examples for objective testing. Generally, objective testing is closed and fixed response. Here are the examples: multiple choice questions, gap filling, true or false, yes or no type questions, and even very short answer questions, and matching type. So, if we look into objective test items, the response is very fixed. If you take a MCQ type test item, the answer may be either A or B or C or D. You cannot have both answers, A or B or C or D or even A, B, C. It is impossible. And even gap filling or fill in the blanks also, many cases you expect only one and only one correct answer. And we all know that subjective testing, good examples for essay type and even paragraph questions and open composition questions. For example, we may ask the children to write a letter to their friend, or you may ask the letter to describe something. In that case, they are free. A class with 30 students will get 30 different responses. So, summative testing is not fixed, it is quite open-ended. Or even you may ask the learners to prepare a speech. It is again subjective testing. But whereas for objective testing, the test items and even the answers are very fixed. And now we have adopted CCE, or continuous and comprehensive evaluation. So, what is CCE? And it is more flexible, and grading is there in place of marks and assessment of academic standards. In the new curriculum system, we have taken up academic standards and divergent means of assessment. So, assessment is done not only by testing, it is done by means of projects and portfolios, oral responses, and even activity reports are. And in CCE, the co-curricular areas are also included, work experience, ICT and all. And these are the academic standards in English language teaching: listening and responding, reading comprehension, conventions of writing, grammatical awareness, vocabulary and creative expressions, or we can call them discourses. So, these discourses can be oral as well as written. Speech, interview, good examples for oral discourses, or even a poem or even a song. Whereas letter, news report, diary entry and even a poster, they are examples of written discourses. And sometimes we can go beyond them also. You can take up a choreography script. So, where many skills are involved. So, different discourses are taken up. So, here in CCE, the focus is on oral as well as written discourses. Every examination needs a blueprint. So, what is a blueprint? A blueprint is nothing but a plan. and how the marks are distributed. And if you see the SSC examination paper right now, you can see these are the academic standards: reading, grammar and vocabulary, and creative writing. These are the academic standards. And if you see the type of test item, MCQ stands for multiple choice, and VSA very short answer, and even SCA stands for short answer, and E stands for essay. So, generally short answer and essay are quite open ended, and multiple choice and VSA are quite objective. So, how marks are distributed? And for reading, the weightage is 25 marks, whereas for grammar and vocabulary 35 marks, whereas for creative writing 20 marks. So, we all know that in CCE the summative examination is administered for 80 marks, and what about the remaining 20 marks? They are taken from formative assessment. For example, in the course the children take up 4 levels FA 1, 2, 3 and 4, the average of 4 FAs for 20 marks will be taken, and it is added to the end result. So, if you see, if the summative examination is for 80 marks and the matching is done and the formative assessment contributes the part in total 100. So, in CCE we never look into marks, rather the marks are changed, the marks are presented in terms of grades. And how can we assign grade? Right, this is the strategy. So, if a child scores marks between 91 and 100, he will get A1, and if he scores between 81 and 90, he will get A2, and the child scores between 71 and 80, it will be B1, from 61 to 70 B2, and from 51 to 60 C1, and 41 to 50 C2, between 35 and 40 D, and below 34 is E or fail. And how the grade points are given? A1 is reflected as 10 points, whereas A2 9 points, B1 8, B2 7, C1 6, C2 5, D 4, or even E is 3. So, if a child scores either E grade or GPA 3, it means he is not successful. And one important thing in CCE is it enhances healthy competition. You know, the difference between 91 and 92 or even 97, 99, it is nothing to do with CCE, because a child who scores 91 will be awarded A1, and a child who scores 99 or even 100 marks also is awarded A1. So, CCE opens the doors for healthy and congenial competition. So, dear viewers, in today's session we have discussed evaluation and assessment, and we have come across 4 different terms: test, measurement, assessment and evaluation. Evaluation and CCE are continuous and comprehensive evaluation. And we have come across the terms like testing, measurement, assessment and evaluation. And evaluation is a lifelong process, it is continuous, it is done at every level, and evaluation has its implication on us. And evaluation is done formally as well as informally, and evaluation is done directly or even indirectly. For example, if you take a classroom observation, it is quite indirect mode, and sometimes the teachers evaluate the students and the students also evaluate the teacher, and even evaluation is done even by our colleagues, and evaluation is done by heads of the institutions. So, evaluation is a very broad term. As far as English is concerned, we focus on the 6 academic standards: listening and speaking, reading, writing. Writing is done in terms of discourses, or we call them creative writing, conventions of writing, grammatical awareness and vocabulary. You can take any standard test paper and we can see how marks are distributed, and we can see that the question paper reflects, the question paper covers all the academic standards, and listening and speaking done in the classroom, and the leftover, if you take the question paper from class 6 to 8, it is meant for 70 marks only, and the 10 marks are meant for listening and responding. And formative assessment always contributes to the whole result. The 20% weightage is taken from formative assessment, and formative assessment is done in terms of slip tests, projects, classroom observations, and even the performance of the children in the classroom, and even the diaries and portfolios and all. And classroom assessment is done in many ways. For example, how the child presents a topic, and how the child speaks in the class, and how the children respond to the teacher, and how the children take part in the activities, and how the children distribute work when they are working groups, and how the children take up projects, and how they consolidate the data, and how they bring the report. And the portfolio is the collection of all the work done by the student in the class. And portfolio assessment is very important in English classroom. So, we just cannot say that the end test is the end. No, evaluation includes so many issues, and even evaluation reflects on our teaching process. For example, once we analyze the end result, what do? We see how many students have got good marks and how many students have not, and where we went wrong. And sometimes evaluation leads to changes in our classroom process, changes in our system. Maybe the teacher can adopt a new strategy for better results in the next classes. So, evaluation is continuous as well as comprehensive. Evaluation is done curricular as well as co-curricular also, and how the children take part in work experiences, and even ICT and art and culture education and all. So, education focuses on all round development of the children. So, dear friends, now we have to focus on continuous comprehensive evaluation, and we have to see that it should be done in the best way. That's all for us today. Have a nice day.